IBé likes to write. Since he doesn't have the time or desire to follow rules, he writes free verse. He likes the words free, as in free to bend the rules of language any which way he wants. IBé likes to read poems out loud, especially to his children, but they don't seem to like it. At least not as much as strangers do. Hopefully none of you know IBé. Speaking of strangers, they call him a spoken word poet. IBé likes this, having people listen to him read his poems, but he also wants to read his poetry, wants you to read his poetry for yourself. So he has a book, a chapbook, and of course, he has been featured on many CDs. IBé likes that you like him. However, if you visited atlanticrock.com and spent more than 15 minutes, he'd consider you a stalker and probably would not want you to have his phone number. I think mine was 14 minutes, so I'm good. Great pleasure to welcome IBé Kaba.
Yeah, that was for being on one of the community editors.
It's broken.
For being one of the community editors, one of the exercises we did was writing a bio. So that was the bio I wrote there. I think I must have read some other ones from previous years. I thought, okay, let me try to have a little bit of fun here. And it turned out to be a little longer than I would have liked to. I don't know how uncomfortable my bios are until I'm sitting there and somebody's reading. It's like, come on, this is more than 5 seconds, let's get going, you know. Anyway, so it's good to be here. Thank you all for being here, and thanks Flamingo, and thanks Kimberly for doing all of this. This is a lot of hard work, and thank you Satish. You crazy. 25 readings in 25 days. Man, this city is blessed to have you. So I'm going to start off with a new poem. I consider this a prequel to the one that's in the almanac. So you see that. So this one, it's gone through, the title has gone through many changes. The latest is called Badala Road. That's the street I grew up on back in a small town in Sierra Leone called Kwendu. And we didn't have addresses, we didn't have mailboxes, so street names and things like that were more, nicknames kids came up with because it didn't have any purpose. And yeah, it didn't have any purpose. It's not like you're gonna tell somebody I live on 5620 Badala Road. They'll look at you like, what's that? But we know Badala Road, that's where I lived on. How's this gonna work? I'm gonna grab it, but... Pick up my voice?
You can hear you. Yeah, you're fine.
Good?
You're fine.
Good?
Yeah.
All right, let me put it there because I might need to. A retired astronaut looks at the moon and hopes the earth is still blue. It's the things you don't see when your eyes can see that become vivid as you grow blind, I think. Some of the best days of my life are the days I can no longer remember, yet I try. In every blink I cry. Whenever I close my eyes, I remember my son. Often I forgot to look. The moon, I drew God in the clouds, then asked him for Tenen's hand. He gave us the stars, the twinkle in their eyes, children like me. I left behind my mother. When we said bye, I was too young, too taken with the future to know some byes meant forever, and life is too short when compared to that. I left behind my father's grave. He died when I was 3 years old, maybe 2, maybe 4. Don't ask me the reason. Besides, what importance is that, except that a man is dead, the family is less than whole, trying desperately to hold on to an ever-widening tree. I left behind the old green bamboo mat we kept under the table next to the bags of rice. We used to sleep on that. Outside when it was much too hot, inside, under the mosquito net. I left behind my youth, running naked, in torrential rain with a stick guiding an old bicycle rim down the hill to the river, up the avocado tree that broke my wrist above the rock that nearly dammed the river, where I learned to wash the dirt out of my black, blue and white uniform. I left behind my school, teachers and rulers they were not afraid to use for any infraction. like not knowing 7 times 8 in a fraction of a second, or not saying it in English when you had something to say. So we broke our Creole and served it to the Queen. I left behind Palava Hall, a small hut on the edge of a savannah jungle where we had discussions not unlike those Socrates and Plato had in Rome. I left behind classmates that left home in white clean shirts, came to class in rags, because it's a long way to school when life has you shackled below the knees. I left behind friends called brothers. They came to visit and stayed a while. Close to 40 limbs in the same room, we dreamt of joining the army, because it was the only way to the presidency, because that was the only way to wealth and prestige, because we were thirsty children of fishermen. I left behind Marley on the veranda, Blondie and Chaka Chaka. Before Chike became Okonko and Mariama wrote her letter, I embodied conning rabbits and fooled stupid hyenas. When Little Red came riding in the hood, I went chasing after her in a small room library where I found my pen, S-I-T-T-I-N-G, sitting. That is my oldest memory of learning to spell. I left behind my imagination, my wisdom, my science, my magic in the hands of an old Kisi woman that healed my broken bone with mango leaves and her spit. I left behind memories, deep like seeing rumble in the jungle. 10 years after Foreman hit the floor, Ali, Boumaye, 1 victory for the Muslims, 0 for the non-believers mentality of the mob. It's easy being a Muslim among Muslims. I used to fast 29 days out of 30 like it ain't nothing, stay out all night, parties that lasted for days, never tasted alcohol. Respect my elders, and my youngsters knew better than to call me without my proper title, Nkoro, meaning brother. I have taken some shortcuts that have shortchanged my parents' hopes and beliefs, countless hours hoping I believe and remember the Quran. I don't. This is one of my biggest regrets. I left the glint in my smile behind the squint in my eyes, the perfect explanation for why my ears are the way they are, long and pointy. My thoughts, long and winded. I lack the patience to see them to the end, perfectly articulated points made. So my words are left dangling over incomplete sentences, trying desperately to make sense of these things I know. I left behind my language, my answers before reaching my questions. When I reached my questions, my first few chapters were missing. The more I read, the more confusing it seems. My children too may one day be missing few chapters. This worries me. The thought of my grandchildren losing my entire book is the nightmare I walk in. I left behind my feature, left behind my sugar, my salt and pepper. I left behind everything that ever made sense to me to come to America. So that's the prequel to this one. £21. 21 years. It took 21 years to call myself an American. 21 years not to feel like a hypocrite when I sing the national anthem. 21 years to share the same nationality as my children. Long before they apple my eye, I came on a B2 visa, allowed 6 months to stay. Went to high school, went to college, got a job, paid federal, state, and local taxes. To be more than a spectator, come first Tuesday in November, volunteered in the presidential election. When the towers fell, I too trembled with fear, but America became hostile to anyone with a name like Ibrahim. 50 states of 5x5 cell, what's the difference between jail and immigration limbo? One doesn't guarantee three free meals a day. Not allowed to work, to eat. I sold my blood by the pint, literally. The only legal way to earn my means while I waited. Tell me, what will you do to reach America? I know men who gave all 4 of their limbs, mothers who gave up their firstborn. You'll need a lawyer, plenty of patience, 2 senators, and a pocket full of money. Apparently, fingerprints expire. A valid driver's license is not a valid form of identification. It was like an alternate universe that sounded like Babel in the land of Egyptians. You better know history. Criminal history, driving history, credit history. What is the measure of good moral character? I can never say his name right. Boehner, Roberts, Obama. What are the three branches of the U.S. government? 15 colonies, 10 amendments, countless wars, the name of the governor who wrote the Declaration of Independence, the Star-Spangled Banner. I passed the test on the telephone, blared the news across the Atlantic, August 22, 2012, forever etched in the tapestry of my being. That day, I stood at the Landmark Center in St. Paul, necktie, black shoes, black suit, next to white people, black people, brown people, right hand on my chest, left hand in the air. Repeat after me, she instructed. I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely will support and defend, no longer an alien, I claim my right as a human being. Once and for all, no longer subject to checking in with the INS whenever I change my address. How did it feel to finally become a U.S. citizen? Like 21 pounds off my shoulders.